been quite some time since we did a Formula 2 report, but it is back with the news today that Daniel Ticktum, the Formula 3 Macau winner this year, the Formula 3 title hunter and Red Bull young driver, will be racing for Albon in this year's Abu Dhabi weekend of Formula 2. Arguably, this has come out of nowhere a little bit. Very similarly, Lando Norris did almost the exact same thing last year, won the Euro F3 Championship and then took part in Formula 2 in the final round. And Dan Ticktum's doing that this year, but you're probably wondering, why is he doing it this year? I know Norris did it last year, but why chuck him in for the final few rounds? So, here's what's happened. Formula 3, Euro F3, which is changing to Formula 3 next year, that is completely done now. Mick Schumacher won that. He completely smashed it over the final few rounds, let's be totally honest there. Dan Ticktum, who was leading the championship for the majority of the championship, seemed to go off the boil a little bit at the end of the year. Got a little bit flustered. Arguably, the car wasn't performing at its best and ultimately didn't take home the championship. But this weekend, for the second year in a row, won I don't really know how you do it. It's Formula 3, GP3 mashup, World Cup, Formula 3 World Cup, Macau. We all know Macau. And I just want to take this moment as well to wish all the best to Sophia Flourish and everyone involved in that incident over the weekend. I don't want to talk about it too much here. She's gone through surgery and seems to be fine, but we wish them all the best over there. But Daniel Ticktum was the champion of that race and continues his journey towards Formula 1. And with Toro Rosso without a driver next year, and with Dan Ticktum getting ever closer with super license points, and with it looking that over the winter super license points may change a little bit, Dan Ticktum, don't rule him out of the Toro Rosso seat next year. Really don't. But at the moment, as it stands, he will not be able to get enough super license points to be in Formula 1 next year. So Formula 2 makes sense. And I 100% expect him to be there next year. But why now? Why is he going in there this weekend? Well, here's the lowdown. Like I say, Dan Ticktum, he's done good enough to get there. But why Albon? Albon this year, their two drivers are Maximilian Gunther, someone who has performed fairly well in Formula 2 this year, but here is the big one. He is going to be in Formula E next year. He's going to be in Formula E, which starts December the 15th, which I know is still a little while away, really, but he's got to prepare for that. He has to prepare for that right now. And so he won't be racing in Abu Dhabi. So what does this mean? Well, this means there's a spare seat. And who does that go to? Well, that was the big tie-up. Because in Formula 2, there's all sorts of, let's call them, floater drivers. Really, so I suppose swap from team to team, never really do anything. You've got the likes of Roberto Merri, ex-Formula 1 driver, didn't do a full year of Formula 1, so stayed in Formula 2. He's the sort of guy that goes from team to team to help them out a little bit for one-off races or a few races. But no, they've gone with Dan Ticktum. They could have gone with the likes of Mick Schumacher, but I imagine with Mick Schumacher's Ferrari young driver ties, wasn't ever really going to happen with Albon. Red Bull want to try and get Dan Ticktum into Formula 1 as quickly as possible. So the more experience he can have in F2 now, the better. And I think that's why they've chucked him in. Why not? Formula 3's done. He's not doing anything for the rest of the year. So let's chuck him in and let's see what happens. Albon, we're on the front row in Russia. You're seeing a few different pictures here and there. Max Gunther has picked up the odd podium this year. Hasn't been awful. So he's in a car, definitely, that has the pace, I suppose, I don't want to say to win races, but at the end of the day, Formula 2, anything can happen. So yeah, when it boils down to it, he does have the pace to win races. So for Dan Ticktum, a guy that's rated very highly, a guy that I think next year could fight for the Formula 2 title, this is going to be a really interesting one to see. And look at what Lando Norris was able to do over that first weekend. Picked up a couple of points last year in Abu Dhabi. I wouldn't imagine Dan Ticktum being that far off. I really wouldn't. And if he is going to keep trying to push for a Toro Rosso seat for next year, again, unlikely, but definitely for 2020, this is the best way to start. And in that pink livery car, which, again, looks like it's going to be the pink livery car, I doubt Red Bull will have enough time to slap a Red Bull livery on there, but you never know. You never know. With the race taking part this weekend, I doubt it. So I think it will be the pink BWT livery once again on the car. But Dan Ticktum, the big news, he will be driving in Formula 2 this weekend as the title wraps up with George Russell the favourite, but Alex Albon, who again, he could be raced in Formula 1 next year for Toro Rosso or Formula E for Nissan. That is the big title fight. And I'd love to know who you think is going to win the title fight. George Russell looks certain, if I'm being totally honest with you, he's going to have a diabolical weekend. But the man with the most pole positions, the most race wins, and obviously the most points overall, looks like he's going to take his first Formula 2 and only Formula 2 World Championship. If you weren't aware, Formula 2, you can only win the championship once, and then you're not allowed back in. So he looks like he's going to win it in his rookie year, just as Charles Leclerc did on his way to Williams next year. But that's something I'd really like to know in the comments below, guys. Your thoughts on George Russell versus Alex Albon. Albon's on a real sort of push of form as well, so don't count him out. But it looks very unlikely that George Russell's going to lose it at this point. And of course, I'd love to know your thoughts on Dan Ticktum, a controversial figure. Some of the things he's done and said over the years haven't been great. So I'd love to know your thoughts, him in Formula 2.